welcome to all of you to this new edition of my Neutrino preview, this time from the 15th of July and until the 15th of August, because I'm having my summer school in between and no time left to keep the track of making it every 2 weeks. And well, if you look at the mandala, and those of you who have been following my previews, you probably start noticing that, changes in the program do not happen that fast, in the sense that we still have this accumulation of planets along the polarity of the nodes of the moon. We have Saturn and Pluto on either side of the south node up there. And we have no less than, let me see, Venus, Mercury, and Mars, in the other front where the north node is. And on the left side, we have, this polarity is creating a tension. And it's creating a tension between the spirit and the form, which is an individual affair, but that, has always been determined by collective thinking, collective ideals, collective beliefs, collective formulas, and there's a tension in how to make those old formulas, continue to work and open up new cycles of evolution for humankind. And there is this void on the right side where the quarter of duality is. So there's this difficulty in determining the way that, bonding could become something that is successful. And on the left side, we have Neptune, in gate 22, in the channel of social openness, basically, throwing ice on the dance floor and making things a lot more slippery, making bonding and initiatives for bonding a lot more slippery than normal. Okay, this is the background frequency that has been there now for the last months. And, here comes the sun and its chorus, and it's been, it reaches the end of the quarter of civilization. It is programming, everybody's attention to be focused on the form, the pure form principle, the throat, and every time you speak about the throat, you speak about the external, the material reality of the world on one side, but also, how the frequency that we embody externalizes our body, what other people see of us. In other words, the appearance of things. And in no other time our appearance is going to be as important as in this month between the 15th of July and the 15th of August, because we have the sun transiting the 4 gates of the Godhead, Muhat. And Muhat, well, first of all, the 4 gates of Muhat, they are the 4 collective gates of the throat, 2 pointing at the G center, 2 pointing at the Ajna. In other words, there are gates that are defined to homogenize human identity. And to homogenize, the logic, the understanding that we all are supposed to follow in order to remain identified with that human identity that we all share. A human identity that is rooted in our beliefs of the past and in the limited perspective of interpreting history the way we have learned to do that through our culture. I mean, there is no other Godhead, no other force that has contributed so deeply as Muhat to the homogenization of humankind. And of course, what as a goddess, what Muhat did is at the end of life, when people die, before, it would be determined if they go to hell, to heaven, or anything in between, Muhat was determining it. She was measuring, the purity in everybody's soul. And the way she would do that is that she had this feather. And she would put on the balance, on one plate she would put her feather, and on the other plate she would put the soul of the dead person. And of course, if the soul wasn't as light as her feather, it only spoke for the impurity of the person's soul. And the impurity, you see, in the collective, the only center that is not part of the collective circuitry is the heart center, the ego. So Mohad is entirely against egoism, against human beings having their own agenda, their own way, their own anything. Because Mahad is a goddess of justice, and in order for justice to be something that materializes, everybody has to be the same, because if everybody is not the same, you cannot measure everybody's right or wrongness with the same standard. Now the standard, the homogenization of the standard of right and wrong in the form, this is what Mahad's feather represents. It represents the ideals of human beings. It represents their beliefs. And it does not matter what time those beliefs and ideas are rooted in, because they have always pointed in the same direction. The homogenization of humankind. And you don't have to sort of be the same. You have to look the same. This is a force of uniformity. Uniforms, they were invented by Mahad. It's an effective way to organize human beings and to make sure everybody identifies very clearly who they're meeting and what their place is within the structure, within the hierarchical structure of the world. So this is not a time to look out for uniqueness. This is a time where, everybody's getting up out of bed and thinking, oh my God, what am I going to wear today? So that if Mahad saw my appearance, she would be pleased. That I match the appearances, that I deserve the best, that I come from the best, to hide every personal agenda. But hiding it does not mean that it's not there. So this is really a time for, it's summertime in the northern hemisphere, so people go on vacation. And see, by the time you get to the end of the month, the sun will have reached gate 31. And with the presence of Mars in 7, we have the 5:15, the 7:31, this direction, this collective direction. And you should see how out of every major city in Spain on these days, there is like in an ant hole, lines and lines and lines of people approaching the same places. They come from the same places. They go to the same places to do the same things, to eat. I mean, this is homogenization. This is something that repeats every year like a clockwork. And of course, everybody has their suits, and everybody has, this is a time for where human beings indulge themselves in the false glamour that they can afford. Everywhere, everybody's in the game, to be caught in this homogenized flow. And it doesn't get any better when you get into next month and the sun moves out of the quarter of civilization into duality, leaves behind the influence of Mahad, because the next 4 gates, the first 4 gates in duality, they are conditioned and determined by the influence of the Godhead Thoth. And Thoth, well, he is Mahad's husband. He's there to make human beings understand how you can have a nicely homogenized relationship where, you are perfect, you look perfect, and you have the perfect relationship, and the two of you look perfect together in the photos that you put on Facebook. Then again, this is all homogenized, a approach to formal relationships, homogenized relationships, gender determined, what a man expects of a woman, what a woman expects of a man, and all these projections of Papa and Mama. I mean, the wheel just turning. The wheel just turning, This is not how you bond. We are, each of us, designed to bond in a way that is unique, and it doesn't have to be mating season, and it's not about looking good in the picture. It's about not expecting to find your signature in the other person or through the other person. It's carrying it with you when you meet them, Not expecting to be satisfied by them, but to live a life of satisfaction and then meet them. Now that sets you up for a totally different experience of what is possible for you in bonding when you are not following the homogenized not-self strategies that are always operating, and that at this time of the year, hey, it's a time for everyone to remember nothing is like it seems. No human being is like it seems when you meet them the first time, particularly if you're an emotional person. So follow your strategy and inner authority at all times, but very, very particularly if you're going to, in engaging with someone, make any irreversible step with that someone. For the rest, enjoy the flow of your movie. I talk to you back in a month. Until then, bye for now. Ciao, ciao.